Welcome to my talk. First question I have for you today is how many of you at your day job is working on the compilers, inventing new type of things? Who's working on this? Okay.
I mean, the Scala compiler or some other.
Yeah, this type of things. Okay, so we have few people actually. So this might be the most interesting talk for you, because I'm a very simple developer. At the end of the day, I have this guy who comes to me, and it's more like, hey Marcin, do you mind exposing this API, exposing this endpoint? Maybe talk to another API that we want to integrate with. It would be nice if you can, talk to the service. Maybe you can do some metrics. Maybe we can document this with Swagger. Maybe we can, define our API in a more like a type manner using some libraries. And yeah, at the end of the day, it would be great to have this all working. So we have half an hour to do all this, which is great, because I think this is the direction that Scala and Scala community should be going to. Because most of us, we are not working on this, inventing new monads, thinking about some encodings. We are consuming JSONs, we are talking JSON to other services, we are, doing some things, and we want to do this quickly. We want it to be production ready. We don't want to write any new wrappers around Java libraries. We want to have all this that, for example, Java guys have working on our machines with our stack. Technology stack, whether we are using ZIO stack or maybe cast level, type level stack. We want to have all this working. So the question is it possible? Can we have all this? Can we embrace our functional programming without dropping things like metrics, without dropping things like documentation? And I'm talking about easy documentation. We know some guys. I bet we all have colleagues that are using Swagger, maybe OpenAPI. Or tool like that to have all this documented for us. We don't want to maintain doc files. We don't want to override them and keep them under some version. So in today's talk, the first question is, what kind of libraries do we have with Scala ecosystem? What's possible? Can we expose our API really quickly, or does it require tons of config files, many lines of. So you can see it, right? In Scala, okay. Can we expose this easily, or we need 10,000 lines of boilerplate taken from the other repository that someone used, or can we do this really quick and easy? So who am I to talk about this? I think Signify just told me that the worst speaker comes first, so that's why I'm first. They try to say, oh, there are some technical issues. I don't believe this. But yeah, that said, I'm a Scala developer working at Flexes. We do depth resolution for B2B companies, like utility companies, and maybe some banks as well. I have 6 years overall experience, out of 3 years with Scala. So I was using Java before that. And yeah, that's what I do daily. Nightly, I'm trying to use my knowledge to do some pull requests to open source and write blog posts every now and then, and speak at some meetups like this and conferences. Still don't know why they try to invite me for this, but okay. The first question is, okay, we have this libraries in Scala, but how to compare them? Everyone has own use case. Maybe it's like quick start. Maybe we want to see what kind of codecs and serializers we can use for our entities. Maybe some of you are working with JSON. Maybe some of you are working with unfortunately, XML files. Is it possible to do mappings? How do we have to define our own mappings? Is it easy? How can we handle things like authorization, authentication? How can we do testing? both unit tests and as well as integration tests, maybe with some client that will talk to our API easily, through some documentation, very important things for, I guess, for a few services or a few workplaces. Performance, which is it like actually faster? Is this library faster, or is it because like it's way slower because of things like embracing the functional programming and doing all that stuff in the background. At the end of the day, some of you maybe want to have some gRPC integration for some services. How is this deployment, and maybe you want to do some WebSockets program. The metric that I use, and I use this one as the only valid one, is how many PhDs I need to obtain to be able to actually use this library. So I bet some of you might know things like HTTP4S, which is like the main HTTP API layer provider for type stack, and ZIO HTTP for the ZIO stack. But there is more. There is Akka, there is Armeria backend, boilerplate that maybe some of you used back in the days. There is OKHTTP backend written in Kotlin that has its own wrapper. There are many libraries that can be used with our ecosystems. So as you can see, using all those factors to compare all these servers, and it's not just servers. We have clients, we have documentation, API, and much more. It's a material for a book, not for a 25-minute or half an hour talk. Therefore, in this talk, I'm only focusing from the servers libraries. I'm only focusing on HTTP4S and ZIO HTTPs, considering them as the most used ones. Short introduction. HTTP4S is typeful because it uses immutable structures, functional, uses FP and all the error handling that comes with FP, and some techniques from them there as well. It's cross-platform because it can be used with compiled to Scala.js and Scala native if you want, and support streaming because it's based on the FS2 library that I bet you have heard about. Okay, so the simplest config that actually need to have your first get endpoint running is as follows. I'm using Blaze server, but HTTP4S, and you will see this in a second, actually use few integrations. So you have Blaze, you have HTTP, you have Ember, and a variety of choices. So for the JSON encoding, I'm using CRC generic with HTTP CRC package that comes with some predefined methods, and HTTP4S DSL that will help us to write easy and easy to also read code. Okay, so there's like a list of some backend integrations that you can use with HTTP4S. Some of them do have clients, some of them support WebSockets and so on. But that's not the most important thing. So I don't know how many of you worked in a library. I never did, but I always wanted. So I came up with this domain, very simple domain for this use case, which is like a book that has author and some other properties. And just to keep it short, we'll have some book service and author service that will handle the business logic for us, like filtering, all the fancy stuff that we want to talk to the database, and all that. We'll have to use those two services, not to pollute our code with business logic, as we all do. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is visible, but we have this very strange function that they talk. So how HTTP4S understands servers? So I think that's pretty intuitive to consider a server to be a function from the request to response. Okay, we give some request and we want to receive response. But the thing is, not for every request we will have a response. There might be some requests that will be not served, that that will be not handled, whatsoever. That's why I want to wrap this inside option. And the thing is, why it's like this, the smaller type F here, is that some, or like even most of the responses will generate some side effects, like talking to database, maybe integrating with other, API, doing some things in the background. That's why it's like this strange method. Some people call it Clicely. I don't want to call it like that, and I don't want to know what Clicely is, what it means, and I don't want to get deeper. I'm just a simple developer who wants to use this. Okay, so to expose your first route, it's very simple. All you have to do is to import the DSL from HTTP4S project that I have shown before, and create a function, partial function from the tuple, which first parameter is a method name. The second one is actually the route you want to match, and expose some content to this route in the OK. 200 answer. Okay. So what if you want to have something more complicated? Okay, we like to expose simple endpoints, but sometimes there is much more coming in the route. Okay. So before we do that, let's introduce two things. We will introduce an auto query parameter, which will be a simple string that already has implicit defined inside of the HTTP4S DSL. And that's pretty good because we don't have to write this ourselves. So it will be extracted as a query parameter from our path. The other thing is this year that actually will be extracting a year from this book that we are looking for. To have it working, we need to also define the implicit of how we're gonna. Because obviously your query parameter does nothing about here. It will just take a string, a number. So we want to parse using Java time. We want to try parsing this here from the URL we received, and then passing this to the book service that will do the rest of work for us. Okay. Does it all make sense till now? Okay. Well. All right. So the first endpoint you have already seen on the previous slide. The other one is using those query parameters. So the first one is author, and the second one is maybe year. Yeah, because if someone passes like number that is not parsable, we'll have a parsing failure. All right. So we try to get some books from the service. Then we want to validate the year, maybe return a bad request in terms of the failure, if in terms of the parsing exception. And we want to do two things. We want to either provide books if the year parameter was not supplied, and I did like a small thing here. I use as JSON method that basically because CRC is so good, it can generate a decoder from the case class. So we don't have to worry about this. We just can use this extension method and use this explicitly because the decoder is final in that scope. And the other thing I did here is also I passed the my own header, which is using CIS string. So it's a string from cats. Case sensitive to, so we can have also do this in our response. Maybe you want to return some authorization cookie or whatever you want. Easily doable without much of a problem. Okay, so
sorry, can you go back to
sure.
Can I ask a question now?
Yeah, sure.
I'm confused by the type of the two parameters here that you have author, which seems to be just a string, and then maybe years. What option of an option? Why is one option and not the other one?
Yeah,
What's
sure.
going on with the validation as well?
Yeah, sure. So if you have a look here, sorry.
It's an optional.
Yeah.
Sorry, right. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's why it's like different type because this comes
So the
with...
first one is required, and the second one is optional, and plus there's straight out of
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah, so I didn't point this is like the difference between query param encoder matcher and optional validating query
sense. It's
param
optional
encoder.
and validated.
Yes.
That makes sense. Thank you.
No worries. All right, so if you want to, I must be very bad, some people are leaving. Okay, if you want to basically define your APIs, maybe under different domains or whatever, you don't want to expose them together, you can simply do this by defining this inside of the router, or you can compose them together if you want, and you can also do not found. The most important thing out of this slide is this run method. This comes with the IO application, obviously. So that's the way how we build Blade server, and you build other servers in the same way. We just have to define the port, the host, and the or route or APIs or routes complete inside of the HTTP app that we provide. Okay, this is like a catch resource, so we don't want to terminate this ever, because we want to basically keep this app running. Okay, we get endpoints, we like them, but sometimes we have to do something a bit more complicated. And yeah, because HTTP for us provides this rich DSL, we can use all the methods, HTTP methods, like post, include, delete, and other ones. What's nice is I'm using here CRC, which again allows me to decode my book and allows me to talk to the repository and maybe talk to the service that will provide some effect. Okay. Okay. So what if we want to expose some metrics? There is this integration with Prometheus that comes with the HTTP4S Prometheus project. And all we basically have to do to expose this some of the metrics to the Prometheus is to define metered routes and pass them into our HTTP application when we are building the server. Okay. Yeah. What about middleware? Maybe you want to expose access to some of the routes. Unauthorized, maybe we want to do some authentication for some of the routes. Maybe we want to check some permissions if if the user is able to manage this resource, maybe delete this or do whatever. So all that comes with the middleware that allows us to act in the middle, as it says, actually, and to work with some of the routes, hiding them before maybe some permission law. Or expose some of them explicitly. But it's all possible. You don't have to do just the authentication part in the middleware. You can maybe change some HTTP codes if you want. Maybe you want to for example change some maybe you want to add some logging. Maybe you want to play with tracing ID. Whatever you can do this. Okay. Yeah. Again, it's slightly a terrible thing. I don't know why it's put it here, but for some reason it's required. So this slightly thing is like two types and the monad that is being used, but nothing too terrible. Yeah, there was like a crypto project that allows you to hash. And encrypt your keys or some values, easily integrate with HTTP4S, and yeah, again allows you to add something to header or read something from header as it is shown before. You can also validate things and take things out of the headers. Yeah, if you want to do CSRF or you want to have some course policy included, no reason why not to have this inside working out of the box. You just have to provide some methods and define this. Yeah, testing. The testing for the HTTP4S is quite easy and straightforward. It's if you use CATS and Scala test, maybe Scala check. If you want to do some property-based testing that we'll have a talk later on, it's still easily doable and can be provided. Okay. HTTP4S uses functional error handling, so I won't go into details, but yeah, it has pretty standard things that you can play with and decide what kind of HTTP codes and what kind of failures you want to log to easily debug later on in the production system. Okay, so is there an equivalent of this for those people or those services that are using ZIO and ZIO stuff? Actually, there is, which is quite good. So we have ZIO HTTP that requires also for dependencies. Just to note down, when I was using when I was preparing this talk, and when I was using ZIO HTTP library, it was under the IO Dream 11 package. Now it's moved to its own ZIO HTTP package. Yeah, also I did the same. ZIO uses streams for streaming responses, and also I use ZIO JSON to have this easy and working out of the box encoding for some entities. Very similar to HTTP4S, ZIO uses dispersion function between request and response. If you don't know ZIO, this is like the so in general ZIO has 3 parameters, which is like the environment type, failure type, and value. This is extended by the 4th type, response, but there is like nothing to worry about at all. So it also uses this tuple, where the first parameter is HTTP method run the route. And yeah, you can return this is like the collect. So it takes it does not take the ZIO effect into consideration. So you can return those text and JSON responses immediately. But if you want to return collect ZIO effect, you can also do this because you can call collect ZIO method that will allow you to collect ZIO effects. That's why I wrapped this ZIO succeed into as a response into ZIO succeed. Okay. Yeah, how we run our server? That's pretty easy. All we have to do is to use the start from the server method because it implies ZIO never, so it never completes actually, and we pass the combined route with the double plus operator. You can use other operators, and they indicate whether, for example, if the response will not be served by the first route, it will fail. Then it will move to the second one. For example, if it will not be served from the first one, for the first function, it goes to another. But if it fails, then it will also go to another function. Okay. Logging. I guess some of you do also some logging in your applications, so we can easily debug things in production. So for the logging, you can create your own custom middleware. To have this, all you have to do is to define this, even though it looks like a pretty big chunk of code. It basically does 2 things. I'll move here so it's easier for me. You can do a control of ZIO because we want to print line the headers from the incoming request, and we also want to print line some headers from the outcoming request. All we have to do when we have such a middleware defined, we do have to pass this to our router function and use this within our server. And if you really want to, you can also use the middleware debug that comes with the project itself. So you don't have to write all this code yourself. Same applies to CORS and CRF configs. I will just show you this quickly. So, for example, this route can generate CS RF and put this into your header. The other one can validate this, so to actually see whether who you are. Okay. Okay. Same comes with the WER authorization. We can use the project that comes with the ZIO HTTP that allows us to put this WER token into our requests and responses. Okay, so what if we want to do some metrics? There are actually 3 projects that support metrics in ZIO. One of them is ZIO telemetry or ZIO Prometheus integration. But you can get this working out of the box by defining your own connect ZIO router with some of the combined metrics, as you can see at the last slide here. If you want to expose Prometheus to metrics because you want to have this pretty looking dashboard, all you have to do is to get this ZIO metrics connectors and define what kind of metrics you want to expose and what kind of endpoints you want to put in the Prometheus metric. If you've never used ZIO test, I highly recommend my other talk on ZIO test, which you can find online. But if you ever used ZIO test, this suite that I have shown you here before will be pretty easy to understand. But if you want to understand this quickly, so in ZIO test we have this suite and test level methods. We can have like test n to test an effect that we have here, but other than that, we can actually test this the same way as we do with cats, but because it will be all run by the framework. Okay. Okay, these are like two projects that I have already mentioned, Open Tracing and ZIO Telemetry. So if you want to play with them, you can do this. Okay, so what if is it even possible to have the ZIO and HTTP4S combined? Because maybe we want to use 2 effect systems, and maybe we can just introduce either HTTP4S to our stack, or we want to have ZIO in our stack because we think this traffic and it's pretty nice. The answer is yes, it's possible, but you might end up having code like this that is actually using things like ZIO cats interop project to have this transition between 2 effect systems in your project. Okay, so we briefly talked about servers, but that's not all we do with HTTP requests. We also have some clients, and again we are back at the question: how can we compare clients? Maybe it's like line of code we need to use to set a simple get. Maybe it's like type safety. Maybe codecs and serializers we want to use. Maybe again integrations. Maybe we won't have to have gRPC support. Maybe we want to generate our API in a very easy and maintainable way, where it will be generated from the code. Yet again, we have many We have many clients. We have, just to mention a few, I think HTTP4S and ZIO HTTP that comes actually with the server project. But if you're sane and if you work on the functional stack, you will be using HTTP because by software mean because it's like the most popular thing out there. Yeah. So quickly, HTTP4S client comes as a CATS resource, but I've never used this to be honest, so I cannot put my name next to this, how it works, and whether it's nice. But I know that some people do. They don't want to have another dependency, or so. If you want to use ZIO client, yet again we can do this. But as I've mentioned, I think the most popular one is project is for doing this. For talking to ZIO APIs, this search and SDP product. Yeah, it comes with 20 maybe backends that you can use for sending your requests. So you can, I bet everyone can find something for them. Yeah, it's pretty descriptive, I think. With the basic request that comes with the project, you can define your method, define your URI, content type, authentication, body, and how you want to serialize your response. And the best thing is, again, that the response can be serialized with few codecs and can be handled with the functional programming techniques. And yet again, this is just the description, so it has to be run with the it needs to have backend provided. Then it can be actually run. Yeah, it comes with a very easy testing, so you don't have actually to change anything. You can easily run this search entity that I have shown you before with backend provided and check code or some value that comes from the within the body of the response. Okay, that was quickly about client, HTTP client. So what if we want to separate our API design from our HTTP endpoints? We want them to be reusable. Maybe we want to use some documentation project for doing this. Yeah, how to basically do this? We have actually 3 projects. I've mentioned here Happier and endpoint4S, and also type API. That was, I think, the first one. But I will show you Happier yet again, that comes from the software component. Yeah, it's type safe, that integrates with many things. It's like just a layer of abstraction, of another abstraction, so you don't have to worry about this, and it integrates with your stack because it's like a library with a framework. So you don't have to migrate from one place to another because there is no such a requirement. Yet again, with Tapir we can define our base endpoint, where we will define the error type and the root path that we will have in our endpoint definition, and we can reuse the base endpoint to define things like what kind of HTTP method we want to consume, what will be the path, what will be the incoming JSON, what kind of header we want to receive, and what will be the also the answer, the response. Okay. Yet again, this is how we can. Once we have defined our endpoints with Tapir, this is how we can make it work. So all we have to do is we need the interpreter to translate our API description into, for example, in this case it's HTTP browser because we are running HTTP4S project. But yet again, we can do basically the same for ZIO, but we will need the ZIO HTTP interpreter to translate this into ZIO consumable routes. The nice thing about this is that we can also integrate Tapir with many other tools that we might want. There are like plenty of integrations that comes with the Tapir. The guys that do really well in terms of the talking to another projects that are very often required and very often helpful for this kind of jobs, like for example writing or generating documentation out of the API that we have in code. So we actually don't have to think about this or maintain this. Yeah, how can we encode our data models or our entity that we have in the API layer? Yet again, we have like plenty of choices, but I would say that COC is the most popular one, and also ZIO JSON for those of you who are using JSON. I will not go deeper into COC. Functional library for consuming JSON, exposing them, and also like generating all those encoders and decoders out of the case classes that we have. Same for ZIO JSON. It comes with plenty of useful working out of the box things like generating JSONs out of the case classes which we do a lot. Okay, so what if you want to generate documentation out of our code? We talked about this quite a lot. So there are two projects, OpenAPI and Async API. Yeah, the thing that we can have is the Tapir OpenAPI integration. It is very handy and allows you to create a YAML file that you can provide to Swagger or whatever, and can relate one-to-one to what we have actually in the Yeah, so actually I like SB because the search entity endpoint wasn't written by me. Actually, it was generated. So thanks to projects like SBT Open API Generator, we can easily generate HTTP code and HTTP client code from a description like this, which is pretty nice when it comes to integration testing. We don't have to worry about all that stuff. It's easy generated, and it works in almost every case. All right. So what about the rest? We are coming to an end of this talk, and I have just covered I scratched just the surface of all this. Obviously, there is much more. There's like a gRPC that is becoming more and more popular. WebSockets. I didn't have any performance measurements here. I didn't have. I haven't even mentioned like GraphQL. That comes with, for example, Calgon or Sangria. There is much more than that. But the thing is that if we have such a powerful tooling already, we have so many projects. We have such a powerful community and documentation standing behind that. It only means that we can fully embrace the functional programming with things that we want to do, that our business wants to do, that the project's engineering managers or product owners want us to do. So we have almost full stack in terms of the HTTP. If you think about end-to-end application development, there's like much more because there's like database connection. Maybe things like maybe we want to talk to Elasticsearch. Maybe we want to talk to we don't want to expose HTTP endpoints. We want to use Kafka, and like there are obviously projects that are supporting this, supporting serialization and all that. But if you want actually to work on the HTTP stuff, we have functional HTTP server libraries. We have functional clients. We have middleware. We have descriptive APIs that easily integrate with documentation. That we have the backend libraries that can use many integration, many actual backends under the hood. So for me, it means one thing, that we are ready, we can compete, and yeah, I hope that we will see more projects, more services that are written into Scala, because at this moment Scala is mature enough to take over the world. Yeah, so some references I used for the talks, for this talk in particular, and yeah, thanks for spending half of hour watching me. Hope it wasn't wasted. Yeah, always thanks to open source contributors and users, because ones are providing feedback, the other ones are actually implementing this. And yet again, thanks again to Signify guys for hosting us and having me. And yeah, it's been a while since I was on the face-to-face meetup last time. I think it was like 2 years ago. So really great to see you all guys. And yeah, thanks again for having us.